What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be ranking every single deck in this meta and basically tell you what the best decks are in the metagame right now. And we have no other than META himself helping us out in this tier list. What's going on, my guy?
How's it going? How's it going? I'm gonna be honest going into it. There's a lot of decks that I've seen here that I might be a little biased to, both positively and negatively based on my own personal experience, but I'll try to keep it as like statistical and subjective as possible, but no promises.
I will be honest, we are still kind of in the wild west. The metagame is finally, solidifying a little bit, but it's still, one of those situations where everything could just like change in a day or two, right? We're just like one tournament away from it being crazy, and then rank, but this is right now is going to be your best bet for now. And that being said, you could also find META on YouTube and Twitch, mainly streaming, well, multi-stream, right?
Yeah, I stream on both, so wherever you follow me, you'll find me streaming, but yeah.
Exactly. All right, so let's get this started, right? I'm going to start with a Mega Altaria and Greninja EX. Let's talk about its worst matchups. Its worst matchups, where it struggles with is a Magnezone-Ori, Kangaskhan, Greninja, Darkrai, Obstagoon, and Mega Absol, and then Kangaskhan, Pichu, where the matches start to become a little bit more on the neutral side is the, Kangaskhan, Daycare variants, the mirror matches, obviously. Although Suicune Greninja, slightly beats it, still, I'd consider that more kind of like around that 50-ish, 50. But like, noticeably, its best matchups, against Hydreigon, Mega Absol. You're seeing a lot of that in tournaments. Many Gardevoir builds, Mega Gardevoir, Mega Charizard Y, Kangaskhan-ORI, Kangaskhan Magnezone, and then after Buzzwole is starting to see a little bit more popularity. So like, that's basically the base of the deck. Overall, I'll give it up to META because he's probably played the deck a lot more than me within the last format and probably in the beginning of this format. Well, how do you feel about this deck right now?
To be honest, because of every new set, there's so many cards new cards, especially this set that came out with 150 something cards. I haven't actually played this deck specifically in this format in the current build, mainly because as a content creator we try new things. But this is one of the top decks that I will be using once rank comes out. This is one of those where I'm biased positively to. I think it's one of the stronger decks in the format. It's diverse enough for like even the bad matchups, if you know how to play through it or play around it. As you can see, there was a lot of bad matchups coming into the form of like Oricorio. Like the fact that we don't attack with Greninja, it's just a means of hitting for 20, does make those matchups tough. But this deck is definitely in a position where it could deal damage. The fact that it fights off some of the stronger decks in the format, like Hydreigon, Suicune Greninja, those are definitely more popular. Anything that requires rare candy, you have a chance simply because you're playing Chingling. So it's almost like the same way Oricorio is a problem for you, anything that Chingling is a problem, you have that advantage. And I personally believe Altaria is probably the most broken meta in the Mega in the game. Again, if you start matching like 1-to-1, maybe there's something that's competing with it. But even with this new wave of Megas, I think Altaria is still the #1 in my opinion. So that's where that deck, it's like anything with Altaria has to be somewhere up in the rankings, in my opinion. Again, it's just like
No, right. But that being said, I have seen it in the last few tournaments. It has been successful and started seeing, top 8s and everything like that. So it's still a very solid pick for the tournament scene, right? If that's what you're playing. Or if you want to play in these ribbon events, right? You could still get like a quick
those
9 wins.
Yeah. Those grueling
Exactly.
9 games is tough. It's tough to get there, but this could get you there. This could get you there for sure.
It takes 2 weeks, though, to get them 9 wins,
Yeah.
But that being said, I feel like it's in a solid tier, right? It's like one of those decks where it performs really well, but just to get that like edge on every other deck, I feel like it's just missing one thing, but I can't pinpoint what that is. But it's solid enough to get like consistent wins. I wouldn't call it S broken, but I would call it, you know, solid for like an A tier. What do you think?
I would have to agree. Again, I would push for it to be towards in the S tier, but it does have glaring weaknesses in the fact that some of its strengths are also its weaknesses. Like we mentioned, the whole Chingling. You are a rare candy deck yourself. Some people decide to put in the Frogadier. I personally don't enjoy that build. It's not as explosive. It's not as fast, which is what helps you in some of the worst matchups. So I'll agree in the fact that it's not quite the number one. It's just missing that little bit of like extra. So I think top like A tier is strong enough. I agree with that.
No, exactly.
All right, next on the list we have Alolan Ninetales. This is one of those decks that I wasn't able to try as often, like as much as I wanted to as soon as the set dropped. Because again, 155 cards. I'm gonna keep mentioning that, but it's really hard to get the cards. So I feel for any free-to-play players. But yeah, Alolan Ninetales is one of those like gimmicky, and I guess that kind of like leans to where I'm putting it on the list. But it's one of those that reads very, very well. It's just the format's a little too fast for something that, even though it's just a stage 1 with 2, just that same thing as Altaria, the fact that you could just charge the bench and kind of get around what it's trying to do. Honestly, some of its better matchups is stuff like Suicune Greninja, stuff that needs to charge the front to deal damage. I guess technically the way Greninja will get around it is with the Greninja EX, but like a standard play, like a Hydreigon could get around it by just loading up the back and bringing out. There's a lot of matchups that just don't care about the gimmick that the deck brings. So unfortunately, in my opinion, I would struggle to put it any higher than just like a rogue, or even I want to be even stricter than that. But I want to hear your opinion on the deck before I just put the hammer on it.
Well, like, I want to be a little bit fair with the deck. Like in the first week-ish, like half week, whatever you want to call it, like it was doing all right. And, you know, it made like, again, that's just the benefit of the doubt that I'm giving, because I know there's going to be a lot of Ninetales, Alolan Ninetales EX fans out there, right? But that being said, you know, it's not going to save it from, you know, its glaring weaknesses where, like, you know, its attack, you're just doing 80. You have to do, you know, Sableye, right? Sableye, no, it's not Sableye. Well, there's this one Pokemon, right? That for one energy.
Oh, you're talking about Banette, the thing that did the same thing as
Banette. There we go,
okay,
Banette.
okay. I didn't know where you were going with that, so yeah.
Right. So like, I feel like Banette would still be better because you could get that online way quicker. It's a stage 1, and you could definitely, you know, Plaza is a card where you could like shift Pokemon in and out Psychic for free, right? So you don't even have to like, you could build it in the back and then just do a free swap, and then boom, your opponent could be locked in for however long, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it being an EX Pokemon, and you have to build it, and like, you know, you have to pray that your Vulpix doesn't get knocked out. And with the speed of the format that we have going on currently, I just don't feel like it's in a strong position. Granted, the Crown Nut does help with that, taking away the energy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure, like you mentioned, and it just like puts your opponent in a weird spot where they have to retreat and just build everything in the back. But at the same time, you know, I just feel like the deck is really lacking. And I could say rogue, because if we're in that type of the format where your opponent probably still doesn't know what the card does or have the matchup experience, right? So I'd say I agree with your rogue.
Yeah. It's again, what it comes down to is the fact that it almost feels like it came out in a format that was like ready for it. There's so many decks that are just like, for example, all the Kangaskhan decks have a Pichu that's charging up the backline. Hydreigon could charge him in the backline before it comes up. Like, too many decks are able to just sit and wait for you to actually do something and then just clean up house. That, unfortunately, Ninetales is just not in that spot to be a contender. But it is, like I said, like you said, rogue. It has some matchups where, and if they're not ready for it, that's when you're shining brightest, honestly.
No, exactly. Now let's talk about a Mega Mawile EX. This card right here is very meme-ish. Like, everybody was calling it 19 trainer, Mega Mawile,
Yeah.
the better Miltank.
Mega Miltank, baby. That's what that is.
Mega Miltank, yeah. For real. And just overall, like, it has a bad matchup into a lot of decks. Like, Hydreigon is destroying it. The Altaria versions are pushing it. Kangaskhan builds, Daycare. You have the Magnezone. It has a really tough time against Magnezone-Ori. Or just like Magnezone in general, right? You attack for 90, make them flip a coin. They miss their attack. They have to start back from 60. Am I correct, right?
I believe that's
like,
how it works. Like, that's if you
like a high risk, high rewards. Yeah, right.
If they just go with Ori in the front, there's not even coin flip to do. Is you're just stuck. Especially if you're doing 19 trainer.
Although surprisingly, it has good matchups against Greninja, you know, and I don't know. That's kind of surprising to me.
Because if they don't set up the Greninja EX, you have to think that the Suicune isn't swinging for too much damage. If you only you don't have a bench, so max 60 damage. If you have a Greninja set
and
up,
140
HP. If you just start healing, like I can see Mawile outpacing the damage stacking up on a Suicune. But like you mentioned, it has really tough time against Oricorio decks. Hydreigon's probably outpacing you. If Mawile swung for 1 energy, it'd be probably too good. Like if it was just like Miltank, where it swings with 1 energy and starts stacking immediately if you're going second. But the fact that it has to, even if you're going second, you have to wait a turn to get to 2 energy. If you're going first, you're going like 4th. Like you're not attacking. By the time you're attacking, the game's over. Like it's a card that I saw, bro. They just keep doing Metal type Pokemon dirty, bro. Like,
and that's I mean, that was your prime with Steelix, and we'll get into that later. No, but that being said, just overall, I feel like the deck, I feel like it's a lucky deck. Like you have to be lucky. It's like, if it's not your best matchup, which is like Greninja, you have to be like really lucky. Like find all your pieces, make sure your opponent breaks.
That they don't find theirs is
is
probably the better way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like I tried the deck one time, and it was the worst experience of my life.
We might have to, depending on where the other decks fall, we might have to drop this down to stop real talk. But
I would honestly just say stop this, stop the Mawile
hype. we could, yeah.
But it's also like a lucky, I would feel, but you know, just for the memes, I'm down for stop.
Yeah, well, again, like we could revisit certain gradings after the fact. We got a few decks to go through anyways, so we'll see. We'll have a better idea of where everything's landing. All right, next deck on the list is Darkrai Giratina. Darktina has made a resurgence in this format, at least from my experience. At the current time of this recording, I just stopped the tournament last night with it, but ignore what I've done. It's won, I think, multiple tournaments, back-to-back nights, maybe even more. Like I'm not in tune with every single result in Limitless, but I know for sure my boy Varoom got a win, and the night before that it won another tournament. And these tournaments I'm talking about like over 200 players in a time where people were writing Darktina off a format ago. You add a few stadiums. This is one of the decks that's using stadiums the most, and we got a deck. I'm talking about like it's crushing Suicune Greninja, like it kind of always did. It's just now it's able to do it more consistently. The stadium giving 20 extra HP is allowing us to have a better matchup against Blaziken. Other decks that like are relevant that we're having a good time against is Greninja-Oricorio. Oricorio's people always oh, Oricorio stops Darkrai Giratina. Like if you have Rocky Helmet and you have a Darkrai, you have a fighting chance against any Oricorio. Granted, it becomes luck based and all that. Of course, you still have your bad matchups, but they're few and far in between. Although I think Altaria fits under one of those bad matchups. Again, if they get it set up too fast, it's sitting too strong, the HP's all over the place. But a lot of the new tools that Darktina has, and I think this is just the beginning of Darktina, I want to be honest. Like anything that we could point out, like, oh, it has a bad matchup here. I think a few tweaks to the list, and we'll be seeing like that could be flipped immediately. Like again, I'm gonna be a Darktina supporter. Unfortunately, once again, one of your videos, but I truly believe in what Darktina does and what it can do in this format. It's fun to see that it's. I don't know if it's returning to a balance because it's not really returning to a good place, but it's back. I think it truly is back.
Nah, I think this deck is just like seeing the return. Like You know that deck that just like, completely just dies, and then one card all it takes is one card to revive it.
Yeah,
I
we haven't
feel
seen that so much in Pocket due to like the game is still somewhat new, but through our card game experience, we've seen it time and time again with like legacy support is what it's called in other games, where they just bring out a card that supports it. Technically, like what Greninja EX did this week in Greninja, except it was already the best deck. But like, imagine if that was displaced. Yeah, I really like the fact of how it uses stadiums too. It's like part of it's like a whole different strategy. Like again, I said like I played this deck last night at the time of recording, and just placing it was allowing me to knock out, like, I was knocking out people's plazas, peculiar plazas, or I was knocking out my own plaza, having their card being stuck in the active, or I would knock out my planes, so they thought they were safe with 20 extra HP, but I just removed it. Like, I like what the deck brings, like the toolbox of it all, basically.
Wait. Let me correct you. It's called bump.
Bump?
That's what Tilly, coming
okay.
from TCG, he's like, he has an agenda. We need to bring it back from from Pokemon, not any other card game. True. It is bump. We bump the stadiums.
Oh, I'll add that to my dictionary. I did not have that term. That's funny.
Me neither. I'm still like calling it whatever.
Fair enough.
No, but I do agree. I like that you could play both stadiums, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't affect too much with the consistency of the deck, right? And just that being said, one gives you the 20 HP, and one allows you to, like, switch.
Your entire board gets a Giant's Cape. Like, what? Like, what are we saying, dude? Like, it was crazy.
It's an infinite one, bro. Mm-hmm. It's an infinite. You can't Guzma that. Mm-hmm. And overall, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of bullish on this deck, and I feel like it's finding its footing in the meta, and people have to relearn how to play against Dark Tina. And overall, I would put it in A tier solid.
I would it might
just
be
based on yesterday.
It might be a little too early. Like, who knows? Like, maybe I'm looking at the wrong way, and instead of Dark Tina adapting and continuing to be strong, people adapt and get Dark Tina out of the picture again. So, but I currently agree with solid. I wouldn't be surprised though if it ends up being mid tier. I don't think it's rogue. I do think it's part of the meta as we speak. And as far as how good or bad, like, time will tell, honestly.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, the fact that I like it there is just that you have control on stadiums, and certain decks, crumble when you take away their, that extra 10 damage for Altaria from the battlefield. Training field.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes that matters if they don't have, like, an extra basic on the board, right?
Yeah, if you're playing against the standard Altaria and they're not playing, like, Rocky Helmet, or they haven't seen Rocky Helmet, getting rid of that field makes it where they can't Oko your things, especially if you're getting rid of it for the planes. So now you even have extra HP to play with. Yeah, honestly, I'm big on this deck. Hopefully, actually, I don't even know, like, what I want for the result to be, but I guess the more decks, the better, to an extent. I like.
Hey, I thought you were a Shining Revelry guy.
Yeah, honestly, I prefer the format. Like, I prefer the reign of Dark Tina over the reign of Suicune that we've been dealing with now. But maybe it's just recency bias and, like, me forgetting the trauma. I don't know.
Rank should tell. Rank would tell.
For sure. For sure. It's like less than a week away now, so.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, so let's talk about Mega Kangaskhan EX and Darkrai EX. Let's just be real. This is the great daycare deck, right? Mm-hmm. Overall, talking about daycare. Now, I'm not gonna base this on rank, right? Because rank, I would say this deck is pretty busted. Because just in general, you could, like, the fact that it brings you in and out of games as fast as possible, and you could play as many games, and it has a high win rate, that makes it a broken deck for rank. But we're, like, we're talking about, like, a more tournament setting, where we're getting all these statistics from, and basically the queue, right? The event that we have before rank. So, that being said, it does have good matchups against like the other like Jolteon decks, of course Mawile, and then it does have good matchup against what's it called, Absol, Greninja, plays well into Charizard, Buzzwole. It's just overall like a nice. It doesn't hard lose to Suicune. Like it has like a slightly winning matchup against Suicune, although it does lose to like some random decks. Like I'd say like Gardevoir is definitely a hard matchup. I played against this with Gardevoir and it was kind of tough. And others, also found that also played the deck. Mimikyu and the rise of that new Mimikyu Psychic Giratina deck with Greninja here and there too. That deck is also tough to beat. Greninja-Oricorio is tough to beat too because like you have the Oricorio for defense, and then it could just snipe out your things. Magnezone sometimes could be troublesome as well. So like the deck right now, it's like more of a 50-50 type of situation where like if you open the nuts, right, Mantine, Kangaskhan, and another baby, you're winning the game, right?
Yeah.
And you go like for if you go second, right? Because if you go second, you could just put the 2 energies, or like even opening up first, right? You still put the energy on it. It's still like amazing. You just like kind of win the game. It's like, how could your opponent stop a 120 beast, right? That could attack it.
And once it's
and
set
you don't
up,
even need a full field.
Yeah, once it's set up,
Right.
Darkrai has an extra 20. If you're playing Red or Geo, you're swinging for, what is that? 160 or 140, depending on which one you
180.
use. Yeah, that's.
Oh, we're red.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's
Red
is just
and
crazy.
Darkrai.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, and you play the Ilima to like reset your board if you're in a losing position, and that's not even that bad because if your opponent only has 1 point, you can literally just place down the Kang, put 1 energy, and use the baby to charge it up, and it's ready to attack again next turn.
Yeah.
This is like that's so unfair.
Yeah, the fact that you just lose it, like you heal all the way back up essentially, and you're ready to go the following turn. It's kind of crazy.
I think it's like, I will call it a mid-tier deck though, because like
all glazing aside, it's not my favorite version of Kangaskhan. It has, again, glaring weaknesses in the fact that you do struggle against Oricorio. It's not one of those decks that's playing like Rocky Helmet to deal with the Oricorio. The Oricorio actually becomes a problem. Like you mentioned, the rise of that Mimikyu deck clearly had a tough time against it because Darkrai does not get through it. Like every Kangaskhan deck, it's gonna have the issue. Like if you start with Kangaskhan and you don't have a Lima, you might lose games on the spot. So that's especially tough in the tournament played, which is what most of our stats are based off of. Because yeah, in ranked, whatever you start Kangaskhan, on to the next one, you get to play a few more games, and like you said, they're quick games because it's like the baby charges up Kangaskhan, you're swinging for game. Like it's quick like that. But in a tournament setting, you have a couple of rounds where you, if it's best of one, even worse. But like you have a round where you start with Kangaskhan in the lead and you can't get it out, and the game's done. Like it's a bad feeling. But that goes for every Kangaskhan deck. I'm gonna bring it up with every Kangaskhan deck. But like I said, not my favorite version. Lead Darkrai is almost just as bad as lead. Like there's too many. Also, most lists, I don't know, I could be wrong about how Daycare has adapted, but you're not playing Pokeball. You're not, like, if you don't open a baby, it could get real awkward real fast. So personally, I do believe the deck is strong. I wouldn't put it like as a bad deck. It has easy, like, basically if you're not one of the top decks, this deck is taking advantage. Like it's gonna win. It has a very consistent thing to do, but it's not perfect. And that I agree with your mid tier. Like all things considered, I agree.
Right. Yeah, nah, for sure.
All right, so jumping into the next one, I see we got Decidueye. Decidueye is probably the deck that most suffered from, I guess, the release of the Poncho. Everybody read Poncho and was like, oof, Greninja is cooked. No, basically. Unfortunately, Greninja will just target the other thing on the bench, I guess. But Decidueye is a deck that already wasn't at the top of its class. Like, it's always been, like, kind of like rogue. Like top tier, like it's decent, right? It had a good Suicune matchup, and if you have a good Suicune matchup, it made you relevant, at least in past formats. But here with Poncho, there's certain decks that they just put their lead guy in the back, give it a Poncho, and you as a Decidueye can't really do anything about it. Not to mention, now there's a few more fire decks in the format. I feel like Charizard is a little more played now. That's obviously like a bad matchup. But then there's also just the fact that even the dark decks, you can't really like beat them. Like Hydreigon's usually outpacing you. I remember last format, you would lead, like if you're going against Hydreigon and they go first, they just go Dino Pass. You're like, I lost. Like if they have Rare Candy, I lose. So that's like one of your best matchups. Is still not a good matchup. And then Suicune Greninja with the Poncho as mentioned, although it's not as common, it's the fact that it exists have definitely lowered the play rate and win rate of this Decidueye. I wish I had more to say as per se, but it's one of those where it's just the existence of Poncho took me out of like this is one of my most played decks a format or two ago, and then I just haven't even wanted to like attempt to put it into a tournament, to be honest.
Low key, I'm just gonna say Poncho kinda just like killed this card. Like I know when rank comes out, Poncho's gonna be one of the more like played cards. It could just like change, but at the same time, I feel like the deck, for the other reasons that you brought up, where it's not even doing good against the weakness type that it fights against. I just think it's not that. It's not it.
It's in a tough spot right now.
So basically, overall, it's just like a roguish deck. Like what I said was, it's not that great because like even its best matchup in theory is not doing well. Like the dark decks, the Hydreigon, it could just explode on it. And like, what do they do?
Yeah, and again, like we mentioned, how Poncho affects this deck. Yes, maybe right now you look at the metagame and Poncho is not used as much. But Ponchos is one of those cards that if Greninja and Decidueye and all these, and Jirachis and all these Tapu Lele, all these cards that hit the bench, see more play, Poncho will rise. And if Poncho rises, these cards see less play, and it's going to be like a seesaw. So you're never going to see Poncho be as dominant as it can be, because obviously people will adapt. But people will adapt to adaptation, and it'll keep going like that, where I don't think Decidueye will ever find its place. It could be a niche use. Like I could see this deck being like, you could use it in ranked real quick. Like it's going to be better in ranked than it is in tournament, because of the fact that you could find a good run where you dodge all the bad matchups and you could find yourself in a win streak. But hard to suggest. Yeah, I would go with Rogue on this one.
Yeah, I just can't see it doing well in a tournament, just for this like current meta.
Agree.
But we have to talk about like the best deck in the game, right? The best Pokemon, Charizard, Mega Charizard Y for sure. The best deck ever. Anyways, that being said, of course it cooks the Decidueye. We're just talking about that. Plays well into Obstagoon. Does well against, even Kangaskhan's, right? Gardevoirs. For some reason, like, remember Darktina is on the rise. You have Mega Charizard, blowing up these Darktina players. If you could like pull that off, they can't really come back.
Is at the end of the day, right? Like, yes, the Entei angle is what gives you the advantage against like these grass decks. Like the decks that you're supposed to be, it's because like the Charmeleon charging up the Entei real quick. You start swinging for 60, like you knock out most of the basic Pokemon that are in front of you. However, at the end of the day, you are a Mega Charizard, Unga Bunga. Like you have a nuclear button in the back building up the entire game.
Exactly.
So a lot of these matchups that like, if the matchup drags too long, at some point you will achieve pressing the I win button. So like that's every version of Mega Charizard is gonna have that to it. Its benefit. However, you do lose to aggro. Like you can see, Hydreigon has a good matchup against you. Funny enough, like Mimikyu, if you put Mimikyu in front of the explosion, like obviously it survives. Anything with Oricorio is also tough. Shout out to that one run I had with Steelix. Like, and then now looking at because we're looking at a list of. You said you're gonna put this on the screen, right? So if you see the matchups, like for example, the new deck that's Chandelier Mouth, which we'll get into later, anything like that requires or has the ability where Charizard just blanks and doesn't get the knockout, or anything that's like a bunch of basic Pokemon as well. That's why Magnezone-Oricorio is also like up there in the list. Like if you force the Charizard player to get 3 points, that's where it struggles. As you can see, all its good matchups are a bunch of EX decks where Entei could maybe get a point early on, and then you just press the I win button towards the end. Anything outside of that realm gets a little too complicated, or just just outside of your. There's also, not to mention that any Charizard combo requires like 5 or 6 cards. Like you need Exodia to pull it off, like from nothing to something. Like if you're not just like sitting there building it up and your opponent does nothing, you do need like either double Charmeleon or obviously not double Charmeleon, like Charmeleon, a Flame Patch, and like them not having a turn before. Like there's a lot of things that gotta come together, and a form of hand disruption could complicate it. Like this is one of those decks where I wish it was better than it was, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it does just have a I win button at the end of it. So.
And just because I feel like that I win button actually exists, right? I feel like Charizard is one of those decks that you still have to respect. And it's like, you know, since it's not like a consistent I win button, I feel like it's going to be something more along the lines of a mid-tier deck.
I would maybe push for... I'll take it with mid-tier. I do think, however, that the Kangaskhan deck the daycare deck is better than this one, but in terms of like the tiers that we have in front of us, I would agree with mid tier.
Well, the reason too I would say mid tier too is like I've seen successful tournament runs. I don't know if you've seen.
No, that's the Charizard MO. You'll have 10 guys with the same list. One of them wins or gets like top 4, and the other 9 like crashed out.
Nah, exactly.
Like, that's been Charizard since GA, since Stoke Charizards. Like, every version of Charizard has been like that. It's hilarious.
Nah, for sure. It's tragic, but it's still best deck.
All right, following with the actual best deck, we got Mega Gardevoir EX. Everybody was hyped when it got announced, and honestly, I wasn't among them. If you go to my tier list of not the meta, I rank every time a set comes out. I rank every card, and I had Gardevoir under meta simply because I knew people would force, like, they're gonna play it regardless. Like it's Mega Gardevoir, it's Gardevoir. Like if it's playable to some extent, a big chunk will play, and once anything has enough play rate, the wins come, like the results come after. Because if you just throw enough, something will hit, right? If something will stick. However, the results are not lying. Like. You struggle against Oricorio, you struggle against all the dark decks that are rampant in this meta. Yes, you technically have good matchups against like the daycare deck is a good matchup for you. Again, this is going against stats that we're seeing from Limitless and all that. But overall, you have a bad rep against Suicune Greninja. You have bad against Obstagoon, which is because of the darkness, right? Obviously, you out energy anything that Obstagoon's doing, but Altaria decks are too fast. Like the more you look into it, this deck is just it's cope. I think like it's hard to even say rogue. However, if you want a silver lining for y'all that like Mega Gardevoir, I do think its effect, like its ability, is very strong. And if they give it the right supporter, like right now, a lot of people are going towards like, oh, we got Mewtwo, or we build up. I don't know. Honestly, from my knowledge, most people are building up a Mewtwo EX in the back. If that Mewtwo becomes something that's stronger or something better, I could see this deck, like not this deck, Gardevoir being more relevant. But as is right now, what we have, I gotta say it's cope. If you're going to say this is good, but again,
yeah. It's kind of crazy how like this deck was the most overhyped card of the set. Like when before anything, everybody's like, "Yo, Gardevoir this, Gardevoir broke it." Nah. That wasn't it, fam. This card just biggest flop, right? Remember Umbreon? Everybody overlooked Espeon. They're like, yeah, Umbreon's cool. It's a free Cyrus.
I was on that. I personally, I have to admit, I overrated Umbreon and underrated Espeon on release. Like before it did anything, I was on that boat. I was guilty of that one.
I was on the same, yeah.
When it came to Gardevoir, I was on the money on that one. Unfortunately, it's just the fact that it's a Mega. If it was a Gardevoir EX that did this exact same effect, or maybe even less, like just added 2 energy, and it was a Mega Gardevoir, I mean not Mega, an EX that just gives 2 points, it'd be like almost like a better Dialga. Like I could see that working with Diantha and all that. But the fact that once it goes down, you lose the game. That's where, nah, I'm sorry. Like that's where it's just too risky.
You know, I just give it a Rogue. Like it could still pull off a win like a Ninetales, Alolan Ninetales here and there, but it's like, you know, you really have to meet a lot of your win conditions.
Yeah, or your opponent not seeing them as well. So, but yeah, exactly. I'll agree with Rogue.
Now the next deck I want to introduce is the Galarian Obstagoon Mega Absol. Now, I'm not gonna put it lightly for a lot of these. This had the greatest fall off of all time. Like, the deck was amazing, like the first 3 days, right? It was insane, beating everything, had the crazy control, had the Pierce for removing the energy, and it just came to the point where people learned how to play around Pierce and knew how effectively this is kind of the weaker Hydreigon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the only benefit you get out of it is the free, Team Rockets drop for 2, right? Because of Pierce. But here's the problem I see with it too. Yeah, you have all that control aspect. Yeah, you need to have like the rare candy. First of all, yeah, you have that rare candy, and playing Pierce with that is like Pierce could become a dead card at any time. Obstagoon and Rare Candy could become a dead card. If those two become dead cards, you have double Pierce becoming dead cards, and that's like 4 or 5 cards becoming dead in your deck.
A deck full of Garnets, for those of y'all that know what that means. Yeah, it's just bricks on bricks on bricks. It's what I do have to say, for the same way it had the biggest fall off, it did have a crazy start. No, I don't think anybody was expecting it to do as well as it did off the gate.
Exactly.
Right out the gate.
It won my tournament in the beginning. The first tournament, right. It won,
and I was like, "Oh, this is insane!" I remember on release, I pulled 2 copies of Pierce Full Art, and I was like, "Oof, I'm hyped!" I put the deck together. I went into a tournament, and people adapted so quick, man. I was like, "Wait, this one?" How? I was getting cooked, bro. The deck obviously has its good plays with the energy, and if you don't, it's one of those, again, if you don't know the matchup similar to Ninetales, if you don't play around what it's trying to do, or you get greedy and put them on better have it, and they do have it, you will lose. The only issue is that some of the most popular decks in the format, like Hydreigon or whatever, what energy you're shooting out of a Hydreigon? Hydreigon's already at 0.
Exactly.
Okay, and it's gonna swing for 130 as a follow up. Clearly there's a miss but yeah, that there's not much I could add because you basically said it all.
Right, it really depends on the pilot too. So, just overall, it does beat the Gardevoir deck. It beats, it has a slightly favor on the Altaria Greninja, and then the rest is neutral, and then it has a lot of decks it loses to.
Yeah.
So just overall, it's still I'd still say it's a rogue deck.
I would put in rogue for sure. Yeah.
It was still games here and there, but I wouldn't call it the best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And now we're going to probably our first S tier of the video.
Oh, you already?
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Hydreigon Mega Absol, bro. I'm so mad at this. If there's a deck I hate more than Suicune Greninja in our current metagame, it has to be Hydreigon. And again, if you've watched any part of my content, by the way, thank you all for watching my content. It's just Unga Bunga is what I call all these decks that just they just go burr, they just turn 2, or they're just trying to kill you as fast as possible, and they're just clicking buttons basically. It's so frustrating because it feels so out of your control. If they Hydreigon you turn 2, regardless of what you're playing, you feel like you lost. Actually, no, you don't feel like you lost. You did lose. You already saw your opponent getting the 3 points. Go on to the next. In ranked, it's a little more. It's a double-edged sword, right? There's the world where it's oh, if you just lose to it, queue up to the next one. But these decks like this populate ranks so much because of how fast they win and how good they are at doing it. Yeah, you might brick. That's where you as a Hydreigon player just go on to the next one and just keep going and keep going. It crushes.
Or copycat.
Yeah, copycat's so broken. The fact that's another thing. Hydreigon's the one deck that will outpace a Suicune deck. I've been on different decks, and Hydreigon's down to 2 cards turn 2 because they copycat, they dump their hand, copycat to full, dump it again and copycat to full. It's what they see every single card by turn 2 with the copycat, because everything's playable, whether it's poison barbs, whether it's evolving, regardless. This deck the ceiling is so high, and even when it breaks, it's okay, just run it back, and it's one of the best decks to use in ranks for sure. And if you want to look at the win rates, it's on the screen. You're just cooking everything. Yes, Chingling gives you a problem, but that's why you're playing the poison. Whether it's Rocky Helmet or Poison, it's what the meta's using currently. the Chinglings eventually get down, and as soon as you establish the Hydreigon, you're basically winning. And then there's always the Absol in the back to close it out, get rid of their Cyruses from their hand, and it's just very strong deck. As far as the deck goes, I cannot take anything away from it. It's just frustrating when, like, especially as a content creator, oh, let me try out this new deck that people are trying out, and then you go against 3 rounds of Hydreigon and your tournament's over. But if you got anything to add to this abomination of a deck, feel free.
No, it's just amazing. It's like the next best Rampardos, right? But with control. Yeah. And it's more consistent. And overall, like, it's just insane. Like, sure, you take 30 damage, but, like, now you're playing the Popsicle with this. And the Popsicle is so much better than Indeedee. Because this... I don't know if you felt the same way, but I feel like the heads ratio on that is, like 70. Like 70-30.
No, yeah, it's giving Misty a run for its money, but it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. And honestly, like I didn't even mention the ice pop. The fact that you don't even have to play Indeedee. Well, people were already not playing Indeedee before, but the fact that now it's even like it's like correct not to play Indeedee, it takes away certain matchups had like a way to like getting around what you were doing by like sneaking the knockout on the Indeedee, whether it's through Greninja bringing it out with Cyrus, like. There was different ways to get it out, especially in the mirror match. You would go the Absol, hit the bench. Like, now that the fact that weakness is not there, or there's an answer to it, the deck only got better with the new set.
For sure. And yeah, nah, I do agree. S-tier deck right there. For sure. Alright, so let's talk about Greninja and Oricorio / Mega Kangaskhan, right? So, that being said, this deck right here, if you're looking to play any version of Kangaskhan slop that's been around, whether it be with Greninja only, Pichu with Oricorio, or even Magnezone, that I've been seeing that around surprisingly. But anyways, I feel like this is the best of both worlds when it comes to having the defender and having a sniper. So that being said, you know, just overall, Kangaskhan could just be there while Ori's in a shield, and, you know, you just charge it up. The deck is amazing. It performs really well. It's super consistent. Has a very good control on the board. Meta, you did pilot this deck. I have not piloted this deck, but I played against it. I played against Luchin. He was piloting this, but, like, you know, overall, like, I was playing Mimikyu, and, like, Mimikyu kind of destroys Kangaskhan for some reason because of the shield. Yeah. But, you know, I overall, this deck is amazing. Just let me know.
All right, personally,
what do you think?
I do agree with the ceiling of this deck. However, it's one of those, like, since you are playing the Greninja line, you are playing Oricorio, like, you're playing like Greninja itself is already like 6 cards because there's two Froakies, Rare Candies, Greninjas. You start losing space for a lot of the utility that other Kangaskhan decks have. So this is one of those decks where I felt every time I opened Kangaskhan, I was praying to see a Lima, and if I don't find a Lima, that game was over. And it happened so many times. Also, you have such a bad Hydreigon matchup, which is it's kind of awful to have. Like in a tournament where in tournaments now, if you join any tournament, the most played deck is Hydreigon. So the fact that one of the most popular decks is the worst matchup, or not the worst matchup, but one of the worst matchups that you could have, is very not favorable. Like, that's what keeps this deck probably from being any higher than what we're going to rate it. It's just the fact that if you're not beating the best deck, if you're 50-50 with the best deck, then you're fighting. But if you're below that, if it's kind of like it hurts you. But I am a big believer of this deck since the Simon days. Like anything that has Greninja and Oricorio, yeah, I'm starting to realize my taste in decks is probably not favorite. But it's like I'm here defending Darkrai Giratina, I'm here defending Greninja-Oricorio. Like, who am I, dude? But nonetheless, yeah. This deck is nice. I like Kangaskhan's my favorite Pokemon that got released in as a card. Sure, as a card, by the way. Like, Kangaskhan as a Pokemon itself, hit or miss for me. It's not on my top 10 or anything like that. But as a card in this set, definitely was my favorite to come out. And unfortunately, it just sucks that if you lead it, you're already like 10 steps behind without. So I would personally probably put this in mid tier, or if it's solid, it's like borderline. I'll be honest. Like, it's just if the Hydreigon matchup was at least 50-50, then I would feel better about it. But
yeah, nah, I agree with you in that. I would put that like somewhere in the mid.
Yeah, I like it better than Daycare. I just don't like it as much as like the decks that are in Solid right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads us to Greninja EX. Well, Suicune Greninja, but with the double Greninja EX version. Personally, it's out of the two versions, it's not my favorite. But again, at the end of the day, it's still Suicune Greninja, so it's gonna be a good deck. As far as the matchups go, it's almost like it's like basically you're trading off. You have a better Altaria matchup because Greninja EX is better against it. You might have like better Rogue matchups because Greninja EX is that dominant. But I kind of don't like how like I guess I'm such a big fan of the non-EX Greninja that only playing one copy kind of has me on the fence. But it's one of those where since I don't like this version as much as the other one, I don't have that many reps. I don't know if you have a better take on this list.
Overall, like it does a lot of damage, right? Like it really depends if you could get it live, right? The faster you get this card live, is the faster that you could start winning games. And overall, it still has access to Suicune, and you're still like ramping up your deck. So it just overall is a Suicune deck, Ninja deck, but it's not the better version of the deck, but it's still solid enough to get multiple wins and consistent enough. And just the fact that you have board control and you could just like not waste energy retreating your Suicune, avoid status elements like anything with when it comes to zone and anything like that, sleep status, whatever. It's just overall pretty strong, and I feel like it's an A tier deck, not anywhere around like the S tier variant, but I'd say just overall it's still solid. It's still hard to beat. Like granted, Suicune just being water and having that ability to draw and having that field presence to control your opponent, what they bench, and is still very strong. And they could just use Suicune as a shield while you build up like anything in the back row.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you just pull it out.
I agree with solid. Personally, now that as you were, it feels more of like a meta call. Like yes, on paper, like matchup to matchup, it's not as strong or as efficient as the one with 2 Granny X, but overall, it is like it's one of those where like if the meta has more Altaria, you would play like you just basically, depending on what the meta is, you could swap which like the ratio of Greninjas, and you're still playing essentially the same deck. It's just as consistent because Suicune's still drawing you cards. So it's like it's not necessarily worse than the other version. It's just you're choosing this version because of the matchups that it has, and vice versa. It just happens to like in the current format that we're in, or that we've been in for a while, Greninja, the non-EX, has a better like, I guess matchup. What's the word? The
matchup spread.
The spread. There you go. The spread of the matchups is just leaning towards. But I could see this like in like 2 formats from now, this being the preferred version. It all depends on where the format goes and what decks are popular.
But yeah, no. I just say I think it would be solid in A.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's talk about Greninja and Mega Kangaskhan. So this deck right here is also, one of the many variants of Kangaskhan. Now, just like you've seen the Pichu, Ori, electric versions, this build dedicated just to do water. And just overall, the fact I like this one a little bit better than the Ori one because it's more aggressive on the back row, and you definitely run double Cyrus in this one, so you could start pull out a Mega and then just go for game, something along those lines, or even just a regular EX or a basic, right? It's just like Kangaskhan puts a lot of pressure where it does like 2 separate damage. So even if you get rid of a basic, you're putting 40 damage on whatever comes out, and either they retreat it or they just sack it to the Kangaskhan, right? So it's just like one of those decks where it works hand in hand with Greninja with the pings and extra damage, and having the double Cyrus available with the Greninja and Kangaskhan's ability second attack. Overall, I feel like it's one of the stronger variants, but at the same time, it could lose if you don't have your, you don't see your key pieces, and just overall, like, the Swinninja is still like beating it. Even against like daycare, regular daycare could outspeed it, and has the Darkrai to work with it. You know, even like surprisingly, Charizard just like nukes it.
Yeah, that win button.
Exactly. Magnezone-Ori is like, what do you really? Yeah, you could build a Greninja, but you really need all these pieces. Like, you really need that rare candy in order to pop off, and you're not having a draw engine like in Suicune, where you could get the Greninja live quick. So overall, I just say the deck is kind of it's back and forth for me. What do you think about it?
I don't know what the thing that stands out to me is the fact that it has a much better Hydreigon matchup than the Oricorio version. The fact that you
For
probably
sure.
could find more space for cards like Elimar, you just could essentially, yes, you're still taking up the 6 spaces that Greninja have that I was mentioning in the Oricorio, but taking out the Oricorios gives you more flexibility with the deck building, which is something that we'll talk about in my favorite version of Kangaskhan. Once again, this is still not my favorite version of the deck, but I would put it, it's hard for me to say it's any better or worse. It sort of feels like the what we were mentioning about Greninja EX and the non-Greninja, I mean the non-EX Greninja, where it's almost like a meta call depending on what you're trying to face. If you're focusing on Hydreigon but you want to play this list, then you have to, like, you cut out the Oricorios. Obviously Oricorio's bad, so it's matchup dependent, but I would put it like basically at the same spot as the Oricorio version.
Yeah, I think it's like mid for sure. It's not like per se better ranked deck than tournament, I'd say.
Yeah, all those Kangaskhan decks that we have in the mid tier have like very solid matchups, but they also have very bad matchups, which is what has it in the mid. Just the different variants that you're playing, you're trading off which ones those matchups are, essentially. That's how I feel about it anyways.
No, exactly.
All right, which leads us to another deck that didn't see as much play, but now with the given format that we're at, is Guzzlord. Like the full Guzzlord line, I think it's like, we're not actually, it'd be more Naga than Guzzlord at this point, right? Like nowadays.
Right.
Which is something like the last time we saw Guzzlord being like prominent, it was in a format where you were essentially forced to play just Guzzlord and Celesteela to kind of get around Suicune. But now, although it's still, I would have to put, again, before getting too into the matchups, just out of play rate and how many people are actually playing this or how much tournament success we have, I'm leaning towards this being like a rogue deck. Not necessarily to stop, because it has some like really good matchups. It's just we haven't seen it be played or put to the test as much as I would like to, or comfortably feel in like ranking it any higher or lower.
I mean, this deck right here is just very. There's not much to say about it, right? Like, it's just gonna be a mid deck. Like, no, I'm sorry, not mid. Rogue. Like, it's just one of those decks that comes out of nowhere. And, you know, if Guzzlord does what Guzzlord does, you know, you get everything that you want, then the game plan is there, right? So, but it's just like not a consistent deck. It's not that great in the meta game right now. So that's why, for that reasoning, I just feel like it should just go to like definitely like a rogue deck, because it could steal a win here and there, but like not consistently.
It could low-key put down, and luck is feeling a little empty, and there's nothing luckier than a grindcore, bro.
Yeah, no, the new Team Rocket's grunt, the Pierce before Pierce.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Jolteon EX, right? Jolteon EX, just overall, it's a cheesy deck.
It really is.
Like, it could steal a win, right? If your opponent has a Pokemon with only like 60 HP or less. Like, overall, just has good matchups against Swinninja. You know, Charizard, Altaria Greninja, Obstagoon, and has like trouble, you know, getting rid of the Darktinas, Kangaskhan decks, and like even the like Magnezone Kang, like any variant of Kangaskhan is like doing is struggling, right?
Yeah, because it gets one shot by Kangaskhan. Like the double attack gets to, actually it doesn't. Well, it would need, obviously Kangaskhan needs a boost, but whether it's Greninja, whether it's Darkrai, whether it's Red, whether it's Geo, like the Jolteon is usually not holding on to it. So yeah, Jolteon is obviously,
even though it got access to Sightseer training arena, like I don't think it's that great of a deck. I just don't believe it's a real deck because
I think it's a great rank deck because it wins or loses fast.
Yeah,
like if you're just trying to climb and find a quick win streak, it won't promise you one, but if you keep trying, you'll get there. I'm sure. Like Loki, it kind of sucks that we have luck under Rogue, but it's I would put it as luck, but I don't want y'all to think it's like that. Like it's not. It's not even close to stop for me, but I would put it under luck because you could go with this deck and win 5 in a row because you just boom 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 one, like they were stuck on a basic, like on a baby Pokemon, and you went into the non-EX Jolteon and just eliminated it quickly, or you went against a Hydreigon, you got your Jolteon EX immediately, and they basically off themselves. Like it was like with their own ability, they started taking too much damage. Like there's so many runs you could hit with this deck, but there's so many runs on the opposite direction you could also hit with this deck. And so it's up. I'll leave it up to you to put it where you want to put it on this tier list. But it's one of those where it's tough. It's tough to rate because the upside is so quick. It's so quick, but then there's a lot of downside.
I'm gonna say lucky, like high end of lucky, like because it's just like the deck is not. I just don't think the deck is real in tournaments.
Yeah, no, I agree. Although I've had some good runs, but again, it was all where like. You just get hot and it starts working out and it gets there, but it's not something like I'll put hang my hat on, like or vouch for.
Yeah. Wait a minute, we are getting to your favorite. Let's go.
yeah. My favorite Kangaskhan deck by far is the Pichu Kangaskhan deck. Like it's not even close. Like when I mean this is my favorite deck, is because it has just the right amount of daycare, just the right amount of Oricorio, and which gives you so much room to play with in deck building wise. What's the perfect way to put it together? I cannot tell you. That's the beauty of it. There's so much like freedom with the deck building and adaptation based on what the format is currently like seeing. Yes, it's not perfect. There's certain matchups that are really tough. There's certain matchups that I wish were better. But like you still kind of struggle with Hydreigon. That's just an issue with any form of Oricorio list or deck that depends on Oricorio. Similar to this is basically the Steelix deck that I had a decent run with, but with a much better Mega in the lead of it, like working for it. But I'm a big fan of this deck. I just wish the Hydreigon matchup was better. But when I'm like what I mean of flexibility and having still the same like upside, this is the Mega Kangaskhan version that I think of.
Yeah. Just overall, I feel like I'm just gonna say this now. I feel like every Kangaskhan has their different playstyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be Greninja, or relying on both, or daycare with Darkrai, or whatever. I just feel right now every Kangaskhan deck is a mid-tier deck. Overall, just because, you know, like you do have that weaknesses of the babies. Cyrus is still pretty high. You know, ninja pings are everywhere, and you know, as quickly as Kangaskhan could win you a match, it could definitely become a liability real fast as well, such as like having the extra babies on the board too. Granted, I haven't played the Ori version because like you could definitely still wall out. Still very solid to have that, you know, ability, but at the same time, I just feel like in a metagame where you're starting to see a lot of Pokemon that could definitely just like, you know, have a bunch of consistent basic Pokemon that could take out Ori. I just feel like it's also still in that, you know, mid-tier category.
It's your video. Like I would push for like the like if we were doing it in order, like the bottom of solid. Cause I technically believe it's better than all these, but if you put it on top of mid tier, I would also I would agree. It's just I think it's definitely the strongest currently. Cause again, just because of based on adaptability, and it still has the same weakness as all the other ones. Unfortunately, like you said, what holds them back is gonna hold all of them back. So it's hard for me to push any further.
I'm not gonna lie, for rank, I feel like all these versions are gonna be solid for rank.
For sure.
Like,
yeah, Kangaskhan's gonna be solid.
Because it's quick. It gets you in and out. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the next deck, I really had high potential for this deck. You know, I wanted to see it to do something, but granted, it has done like good results, right? It's come in 23rd in a, or something like that, in a 800-man tournament or something. Like, that's kind of impressive, but that could be also too, like, you know, how lucky were you? What was your bracket path? And, you know, and just overall, this deck almost loses to everything. I'm not gonna lie. Leafeon and Ogerpon, right?
Yeah.
Like, it has a good matchup on Obstagoon, and, like, but who's playing that anymore? Gardevoir.
Yeah, I think that's why I had the results.
That.
I think it's because early on, everybody got Absol. That's where Leafeon was able to like propel itself to like some good results, and then everything came back, like dropped down to where it's supposed to be, and yeah, Leafeon was not on that list.
And I mean, the deck is good. You know, I'd say still respectable.
In theory, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, in theory, what it's trying to do and what it does is solid, right? Like you're getting a bunch of energy produced from Leafeon so that your Teal Mask is able to attack for more. You don't have to worry about any status conditions, whether it's sleep, whether it's poison, whatever it is. You don't have to worry about it. Thanks to the Ogerpon is a card. Like side note, Ogerpon as a whole, like it read as such a strong card for the format, but it's just a worse Indeedee in every way, in the sense that it's just not as generically available. Like Indeedee, no matter what, you're gonna be able to heal. Every deck is trying to deal damage. You could heal that damage. Not every deck is trying to do status conditions, so just it being less universal or less usable, despite the effect being universal, like anything with an energy gets saved, it's just too gimmicky for my liking. And at the end of the day, your damage output is usually 60 or 70, regardless. Like Leafeon 70, Ogerpon 60. Very rarely are you gonna get to that point where Ogerpon swinging for the 120, and even then, what are you knocking out with 120? So like
exactly.
Everything that this deck is trying to do makes sense. It's just not enough in the current game format.
You know, like just for those reasonings, I think it's a rogue deck, because like rogue, like, oh, it's Obstagoon, let's play this. Nobody sees it coming. It's like it fits the definition like very well.
100%. Then we have followed up with okay, this is when I mentioned earlier in the video that I have some negative bias. We're going into it right now with Mega Lopunny EX. Anything that has coin flips, anything that's randomly hit stuff, anything that's just not guaranteed, like not supposed, that doesn't just do what it does, I'm already out on it. Like if this was a Shark Tank, I'm out. I'm not buying it. However, you do have to admit some high rolls, and you could be, this deck just could be anything. In theory, if you granted it can't beat an Oricorio, but that's what Lucario's there for. But if you just swing at anything, there's a chance that you could beat it, and then there's confusion on top of that. So there's definitely some playability to this deck. I personally don't think so. Like I don't agree with it because my luck is not there. But maybe you've had better luck. I'm down to hear what you think about the deck.
I mean, the deck is like one of those, like somebody was playing in the tournament 2 days ago and went like 5-1 with the deck. Like,
sounds about right.
And right, it could be like they were getting lucky with their flips, confusion was working for them. You know, the deck could still put damage out here and win games, but is it really like consistent enough to be like considered a solid pick? Like, would you take this as your first pick for a tournament? No, right?
Nah, the numbers don't lie. What are like the three most, regardless of what we rank them as a whole, the three most played decks have to be some combination of Hydreigon, Suicune, Greninja, and then what, maybe some form of Altaria would be third. And if we're looking at just those decks, look at the win rates on the screen. Like if it's on the screen, you got less than 30% against Suicune, Greninja, less than about 40% with Hydreigon. Like, and where's Altaria? Every Altaria version is like 40 or less. Like if you're not beating the best decks, but you're not beating any of the best decks, like what are we even doing? Like If you don't want to put it on stop because there is some kind of upside, this has to be luck. This is like luckier than any deck that we've talked to up to this point.
Exactly. And that being said, I just think it's another rogue deck. Just
I'll go luck. I'll go. For me personally,
you go lucky.
Yeah. If not stop
with the flip.
But again, like I said, I am super out on Lopunny. But so just regardless of where you put it, I want the people to know I do not support Lopunny.
For sure. Nah, just because it's a mega status and it does give status a limit, it just gives it more time to flip and forces your opponent to retreat and all. So it's not like Jolteon. It's like I draw, I win everything. If I don't draw, I'm out. You know.
Fair.
Yeah, that's the only reason. But yeah. So coming in to Mega Magnezone-Oricorio.
Might as well be a Mega, bro. That guy's a tank.
Might as well, right? Like whether you're playing 1-in-1 of the Magnezones, which the one that deletes an energy from itself to do more damage, or the one that makes you flip, the deck is still a very solid anti-meta deck out in the format, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gets a lot of consistent wins, but I wouldn't call it the most consistent thing in the world, because like there are times where you brick with this deck hard, and I feel like that's one of the things holding it back. So overall, very good deck, solid, plays well into almost everything, and just for those little factors, I just want to hear what you say.
This is one of those decks that it's crazy how relevant Magnezone's been. Like, it got only better, right? With Clement, it got more consistent. Now they have their Magnemite is Alicia target. Then Copycat exists. Like, yes, it's not the most consistent deck because you need to manually go through all three stages. But at the end of the day, if any deck has consistency like that, at least like Dina said, oh look, these cards will help you. That this is the one that got it. However, Hydreigon's still the most played deck. But again, okay, so to concentrate my thoughts, so not going to a tangent. This deck is insane. I would put it in solid. It's gonna be a good deck as far as I could think of. Like, I don't see this completely falling off, but it's not S tier. It's not any higher because the most popular deck just completely cooks you. Like, you don't have an answer to Hydreigon. A setup Hydreigon is like running like through your entire line. Like, Oricorio's not stopping it. If they do have rare candy, which you don't, so they get to their part to their beat stick or their threat faster than you do, you can't really do much about it. But with that said, every other matchup is like you feel so good, or that you have a fighting chance, which is all you could ask for from a deck.
Exactly. I agree with all that.
Which leads us to Altaria, like pure Altaria, which is a deck that just doesn't go away. There's certain times when it's been less popular, more popular, but this deck has to be among the best. Like I've mentioned earlier in the video, Altaria as a whole, like as it's in my opinion the best mega to be printed up to this point. Just 2 energy, swinging for 130 is crazy. Obviously having the 190 HP. Worst case scenario, you send out Swablu to put them to sleep, and then that gives an alternative win condition. Whether you're playing Mega Altaria and Indeedee, or you're playing more Chinglings, or nowadays they're playing it with like Jirachi and Tapu Lele to completely take advantage of the bench and bring out like double Cyrus. Like the deck is so versatile. It's only a stage 1, so now they're playing the stadium as well. That adds extra damage. That extra 10 seems like it's nothing, but going from 130 to 140 helps so many breakpoints. Whether it was Suicune, whether it's Dark right now, like there's so many Pokemon that breakpoints counts. Especially since it doesn't matter whether it's an EX or whatever. Like, so now I'm looking at this list. You have cards like Chandelure that fall under that 140. Magnezone was 140, although the one that swings for 90 is 150. But like, if you start looking at all the matchups that got improved by just that extra 10 damage to a deck that was already like taking over the meta. Like, every now and then you would see a Pocket Match tournament and it's like, what one? Oh, Mega Altaria. Didn't this win the Invitational, where it was like the best of the best players were like there? Like, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, this was past format, but it's one of those decks that just, no matter what you throw at it, it has a winning condition. Whether they go with Chingling, so they limit the rare candies like Hydreigon, or they go with more of like Jirachi, and Tapu Lele, so they're trying to snipe the bench. Like, there's so many angles the deck could take where it could stop the rare candy decks. It could stop like the basic decks. Like, it's a very strong deck. One of my favorites. Whether I use it as much as other variants of Altaria, that's different. But this has to be, in my opinion, S tier.
Deck is a GOAT.
Yeah.
There's not much to say. Like, the training arena, battle arena, whatever you want to call it, it has access to the Lucky Pop as well. That just makes it good as well.
Yeah.
Like, Altaria just overall is like insane.
Yeah, it just has too many things going for it. It has,
and yeah, sniping, Cyrus.
yeah, the limiting, Chingling, yeah, searchable Chingling. Whether it's you're searching your with Lissia searches your main threat in Swablu into Altaria, while it searches your stall and your lead in. It's too much going on. That deck is I'm big fan.
Let's talk about Mega Gyarados. Oh my god, I don't even know where to start with this deck. This deck is awful, I'm sorry.
Okay, for a second I didn't know where you're going with that. I was
like, I tried the Frillish build. Like, you can't draw well with this deck. It's like impossible. You have to play Ponchos so you don't get knocked out for your your Magikarps, and it's just overall like not the best deck. And you have to be extremely lucky. I feel like, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat this, I feel like you have to be lucky, draw the right hand, pop off,
and
right?
Then what? And you still they still beat you.
And you still kind of lose. But yeah, nah, I just feel like the deck isn't as great as, like, I don't know if you have any more words on that.
No, what I do have to say is that when Poncho was revealed, I was like, oh, maybe that's what Gyarados needed. It is not. It's not. Does it make it more playable? Does it protect your Gyarados? Yeah, but I wouldn't even I would tell you to stop. Like, don't hurt. Like, play something else. But again, I guess if you really like Gyarados,
I agree.
If you really like Gyarados, I guess it's as best as it's been since, like, really, because of Poncho does in fact protect your Magikarp, but it's not enough. Then it starts only like it's. Yeah, no, I wish it was. I like Gyarados, especially since even from like the video games from when I was legit, like they always give you that Magikarp, that guy rips you off for $500 or whatever it is. But TCG Pocket is not the time. Gyarados had its time. Now is not it.
Right. Let it rest. Let it go.
And we've been bouncing back and forth, but I feel like I'm not doing it justice if I try to break down this Mimikyu deck. The first time I ever knew this existed was a DM from you showing that you and Sakaru were just killing with it. So I'm gonna pass that one to you. You go.
So yeah, it was so it's a little funny story. It's like, we were in VC before we were gonna join the tournament, and Tilly was just like playing. We we're like, yo, this looks kind of cracked. Let's play. And me, Jimbo, Psych were in the call, and we're like, yo, let's build this deck and play at Mads. And I legit was not going to play this deck at all. And, all of a sudden, we're talking, building the deck, saying what cards, should go in there. We took the skeleton from what Tilly was using. So we all kind of like had that influence on the deck, and then it was created, and we're like, you know what, last minute I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna join the tournament too, why not? Ended up joining the tournament. It popped off for me. It went like I went 5-0 with the deck. Sec made it into top cut, made it pretty far, which is pretty dope for him. And just overall, the influence that we've seen in this deck has been monumental. Like, ever since this deck has been played, we've been seeing many tournaments, more Mimikyu being played. It's like one of those popular cards that everybody loves. And the plaza is so broken in this deck. Like, the fact that you could just keep swapping in and out is insane. And it's one of those aspects where your opponent has to figure out, damn, when do I have to hit the Mimikyu if I want to get anywhere. But by that time, you're building the Darkrai, the Giratina, and at the same time getting the Greninja in order to, like, ping their Mega and pull it out and just win for game with Cyrus. And it's like, the deck is great, right? It's hard to pilot. You need to have like a brain to pilot the deck. It's not one of those like, oh, I could just like,
Yeah,
you
just
know,
because the button glows
do
is
this
not
and do
gonna
that.
it's not gonna get you there.
It's not that unga bunga type of situation that we're at. But that being said, you know, it does have its glaring weaknesses here and there. Like as the meta, you know, progresses, it's like one of those things where
Yeah.
people will learn
Yeah,
how
once
to
the
deal with Mimikyu.
once the element of surprise is out
It's
the
gone.
window, it starts getting a little harder to replicate the success. But that doesn't take away from the success
Exactly.
it did have. So
Right. And just overall, like, I wouldn't put it in the same tier as A. I'd say it's like somewhere along like the mid tier, right? Like it could still pop off, but like it doesn't have that pull that like the best deck I would say right now, based on how we're like tiering everything, is Darktina. It doesn't have that like crazy consistency where it pops off, because there are times you could break and literally not draw the, you know, the Greninja, and you're kind of stuck just like swinging 70 70 70.
yeah.
But like the deck is still good enough to like, you know, make top cut and everything. Don't get that like twisted. It still does make top cut, and just overall, like if anything, I would say it's like kind of like high, like mid tier. Could peak to like low solid, but like I wouldn't. More data would be needed to do that.
The sample size is a little low at the moment, and it's very volatile. Of like the same way you could see it going to solid, I could see it falling into rogue, where it's just like a matchup that it's piloted by very few, due to also, like you said, like it's not the easiest deck to pilot, and I think that limits it in the tier list. It's not fair to limit a deck due to it being hard to play, because if it's a good deck, it's a good deck, but the fact that it's not as accessible to everybody kind of puts it in the rogue situation where like you're basically playing it with that as your advantage. The fact that it's harder to pilot, hard to counter,
Exactly.
like you're banking on them not knowing what's going on, which I feel like defines rogue. But I do think it's not fair to the deck, because I feel like it's better than the decks that we have there. But wherever you put it, I feel like it's correct.
I'd say more like on the mid, because once you do have that grasp of knowing how to pilot it, like it's actually really good, like on decision making and everything. You just can't be like throwing your energy around mindlessly.
Fair enough. Which leads us to the next deck, which is Blaziken-Heatmor. This is one of those decks that continues to, it's like, it's Unga Bunga in the sense that you're just going rare candy, press button, hoping to win. However, where I think it's fallen, it's one of those decks that actually got hurt by the stadiums. I feel the fact that stadiums like the planes that's giving these Pokemon an extra 20 HP makes it where Blaziken is beginning to miss a lot of its ranges. Unlike Altaria, that with the fields now swings for 140, this Blaziken's like now it's still hitting for the same 120 plus burn, but now the Suicune has 160 HP. Now your Darkrai has 160. Like there's so many. The Giratina swung at you, but it's still at 150. Like it's like, what's going on? Like I can't knock out these Pokemon. Like it's like that's how it feels. At least when I've been going, I haven't played Blaziken as much, but I've gone against it, and it doesn't feel as threatening when your Pokemon have so much more HP to deal with. Plus, it still has the bad matchups that it had before. So basically, its bad matchups continue being bad. Like Chingling is still awkward. It still makes you like delays you. It lets your opponent set up while you can't. Or Oricorio still walls you when they heal it and stuff. But now your better matchups, like the Suicune that you were one-shotting, is no longer an option. Well, it's still an option, right? But there's certain cards in the meta now that make it even harder for you. So unfortunately, like Blaziken was one of the decks that probably got hit the worst with the new release.
Exactly. I mean, like the deck is good, but not as great as it once was.
Yeah, like the game plan is still the same. It's still doing exactly what it was doing before. It's just now it still struggles with what it was struggling in, and then what it was supposed to like have a really good matchup was given extra tools. So like that's, I know I just repeated myself again, but like this is like that's just where I'm at with Blaziken, unfortunately.
I think so. I think Rogue might be a good like placement. What do you think?
Yeah, I think anything else is harsher, and it's not any better than that. So yeah, Rogue is fine.
Exactly. All right, the next deck, I'm just going to be honest with you, I literally know nothing about.
I'm not gonna pretend like I do either, bro. It's like, you tell
Like,
me that, I was like, wait, which Galvantula are they using? The Venus Princess 17 Galvantulas.
I just played against it before in the past, and it's a gimmicky deck. It's not that good. Let's just stop.
Stop, or I guess in respect to our lack of knowledge, I'll refrain from like rating or hating on it or vouching for it.
I'm gonna put luck. All right, we'll avoid the hate.
If we look at the stats, we could put this as the stats on this page. It has a positive win rate against Hydreigon. So if you could beat Hydreigon, you could join the club. You could join the club. Let's put it in luck.
Yeah.
If you go against 10 Hydreigons in the tournament, you have a chance of making top cut. So that's pretty lucky if you ask me.
That is true. But I think you know the next one really, really well.
Yeah, I think we all do, and we're all tired of it to an extent. Suicune Greninja, the standard version, the one that's been winning tournaments for like the past 3 sets. Suicune Greninja, I'm aware, has been relevant since the Clutch Springs, but I'm talking about the version that we're looking at, which is they're playing the Frogadier to counter the Chingling. They're playing the one Greninja EX to counter, like, to have a good matchup or versatility. But the double, I just forget the double Greninja. I mixed Greninja with double. It was like, but yeah, the double Greninja non-EX is just the way to play this deck, especially right now. It's been the way to play it for some time now. It's just too strong. It answers your worst matchups. It's like your bad matchups get better. Like I don't know what to say that doesn't, like, y'all came into this video knowing this was gonna be S tier. The only time this is not winning a tournament is when like the community for some reason like comes to the consensus that they're not playing it this time. Like, one of the bigger tournaments, not even from this format. Oh yeah, the first Pocket match was won by Suicune Greninja, right? Like that. Like the only reason it didn't win it the last format was because everybody decided to play new stuff. This time around, people played 0 games and it was up there. Like it's still the best deck, or among the best decks. I'm not gonna put it as the clear number 1 because it isn't. But yeah, it's still at the top of the game.
I don't think there's any more to say about this. It's just. Let's just move it. That's it.
Yeah. one day they'll find a way to get it out, but it's still here. It's here to stay for now.
Exactly. Oh man, I don't even know where to begin with this. Mega Venusaur, like the deck is very. This is the pure definition of lucky. Like you gotta make sure you're lucky about like having your hand. Making sure you have your quick grow, your evolutionary lines, and not only that, you gotta be lucky that Ivysaur doesn't get knocked out. Yeah. You gotta be lucky your opponent stays asleep and doesn't get a revenge attack or set something crazy up to get like a better. You better have all your healing. I feel like luck is like where it belongs because it fits the definition so well.
Yeah, you won't see. You won't find me like defending it anymore than that. Like, you put it right there, we can go on to the next one. That's where that one lands.
I'm down. I'm so down.
Which leaves us to the next one, which is Ariados. Ariados Whimsicott. Wait, honestly, it's one of those where like it saw a lot of play early on in last format, and then it kind of fell off once Suicune Greninja saw more play. But then this format with all the Hydreigon, and then there was obviously the Obstagoon at the beginning, I feel like it's seeing a resurgence somewhat. Personally, I still think it's still kind of gimmicky. What it does is very strong, but its bad matchups continue to be bad matchups, and they haven't gone anywhere. They're still there. The Suicune Greninja is still there. All the Greninja decks in general are still there. All the fire decks, Charizard is still there. Blaziken, although we mentioned that it's not as good, if it goes against you, it's like, oh, thank God, we caught a break. Like, it's like, so I don't know how you feel about the deck. I think you were higher on it than I was, but clearly has one mission, which is knocking out the dark decks, which again, that puts it like we said about the Galvantula. If you have a good matchup against Hydreigon, you're invited to the table, but that's about it for this one.
I say rogue. It's more of a roguish deck. It's like you're trying to beat the meta, have a good day, have a good meta call, and that's it. Like, agreed. I don't think it's that great right now.
Yeah, no.
So going into Mega Absol Darkrai Greninja, this deck was amazing last format, and I would have called it a solid deck, A tier. But that being said, just overall the deck kind of fell off in this meta. right? Like, it's still strong. Don't get me wrong, but like, there's just better options to like play instead of like. What I'm trying to say, Mega Absol has better partners to like, you know, have that control aspect and just like, you know, win the game. And I just think this deck right here is just starting to lack with the meta advancements that we're looking at right now. And, you know, overall, what do you think so far?
My opinion is it's just suffering from like lack of play rate. That just people aren't. It's one of those decks where I feel it's just as strong as it was last format. Just it's not the most popular deck in terms of like it's not people's first choice. I wouldn't be surprised if come ranked, some of the top players, whether it's top 100, top 1000, are on it or have it in their rotation. Personally, I think it's on par with the Altaria Greninja. Maybe not as strong. Obviously, I'm biased to the Altaria Greninja version, but I don't think it's far enough behind where I wouldn't consider it to be in the same like realm. That's my opinion. But
I think it's more or less like yeah, I would call it like an A tier deck, like if we were in the rank. Just like you mentioned, you know, players will still play it, but like in a tournament scene where you're seeing, you know, everything that we're seeing now, I just feel like it's kind of high mid, if that makes sense.
I can see that.
It's just like I don't think it has the speed that it needs.
Yeah.
For like a best 2 out of 3.
That's fair. It doesn't have it's lacking on the power that Altaria has while still trying
like
to do
I'll
the same
say it's
thing.
too fair. It's too fair.
I could agree with that.
Because if you don't have your line, as an Altaria, okay, cool, I just stage 1 130. You know?
Yeah. There's still a line, or you could put you to sleep and buy its time and get there. Meanwhile,
exactly.
the Absol deck has to go through those. Yeah, I can see it. I agree.
But like, if anything, it would be like more of a high mid.
Yeah. Which puts us to the next one, which is Mega Altaria Giratina. I don't know what experience you have with this list. I was one of those that was skeptical when I saw it on paper, but in practice, it's like it's not perfect. Very few of the decks that we have seen today. Look, as you see, it's a giant tier list, and only 3 decks are S tier, and even those decks I would say aren't perfect. But this deck does what it does very well. Like it does it every game. It repeats it over and over again. It basically never bricks because what it's trying to do is just build up Giratina, and it has the option like it has very strict. How can I put it into words? Basically, it has a game plan and it will stick to it every matchup. It's just some matchups doesn't matter like what your game plan is, you're gonna lose, and then other matchups, as long as you stick to the game plan, you should come out on top. And that's a weird place to be as a deck. Like it's hard to rank that because it's like if you compare it, like how does it do with Suicune? Oh yeah, this is a solid deck. How does it do against Oricorio? Okay, this deck cannot win. And like so, it's like I don't know. I'm glad I'm not the one who wants to choose the tier at the end of the day. I'll leave that to you right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the deck is good, but like Altaria definitely does have better partners as well. 100%. So I just call it like I'm down for mid tier. Like the deck is so strong, but I wouldn't call it like
low key. It suffers from the same thing as Mimikyu to some extent in like in the terms of like how you play it. I would no Mimikyu. Yeah, I would put Mimikyu above it. But in terms of like you can't just like blindly play it. The way you play it into each matchup actually differs. Like the way you play it against Suicune is not the same way you play it against Oricorio, and that's just like every matchup to matchup it changes how you play the deck, and that could get complicated in terms of just like giving it to somebody like, oh, play this deck, go, like so.
Exactly.
Yeah, this.
Talk about some Magnezone Helio. So like this deck right here was pretty good in the last format because it stole games, especially from like Suicune. Does a lot of heavy damage, but like I'm not gonna lie, this is just a fun deck.
Yeah, no,
at this point.
In terms of like if you're trying to be competitive, I would put this in stop. Like unless you're going against so much Suicune that you're like tired of it, like you gotta eliminate them, or yeah, no, I would say. I
think there is a format for this, but I don't think there's a format here.
Yeah, no. It's like it can't beat Hydreigon. It's yeah, it's basically a Suicune, a silver bullet for like a Suicune deck essentially.
Exactly.
Which leaves us to Swampert, Mega Swampert EX. I honestly, this falls under similar to where I have Lopunny. Obviously you're not flipping coins, but the 2 energy are coming out of like anywhere. So I'm, like I said, if this is Shark Tank, I'm out. I don't want any part to do with this deck. I tried it on stream. It wasn't tournament. It was just against random battles, and it was just like either I was not finding the rare candy and I was stuck, or I wasn't ramping fast enough, or when I finally got it, the energy was like I was shooting myself in the foot. Like I'm so out on this card. But if you have a different perspective or different experience, by all means, like that's the definition of this card. Like you'll have somebody that vouches for it. They went 6-0 in a tournament, or they topped or whatever, and then you'll have me that can't win a random battle. So go ahead.
Well, overall, just like Swampert, I'm gonna be real, I never played it, but I never lost to it. So it's just like, I don't even know what to say about this. It's good enough to be rogue, I guess, but like maybe lucky.
If maybe it does have luck involved for sure. But you know what? I'll say if you have Lopunny and Rogue, I'll put this in Rogue.
Yeah.
But if you put this in Lucky, then you gotta put Lopunny with it. And that might be just me trying to find a way to put Lopunny down. But
we gotta please the Gen 3 people before they come after our next.
Yeah, I wasn't born into Gen 3, but man, Gen 3 was probably the game I've played the most. To this day, I'll go back and play Emerald, whether it's a Nuzlocke or a ROM hacker or some kind. Like Gen 3 is definitely peak Pokemon for, I guess, our generation or my generation, to not age everybody.
No, yeah, for sure.
But that leads us to the next one, which is Crobat Absol. I actually have not played it in this format, so feel free to take that one.
I haven't played it as well, but no, I've been seeing a lot of placements with this deck. It has been doing really well, but not like consistent. Like it's a great deck, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't call it like anywhere like a solid A tier or something like that.
I think
it's good enough to win, but like, what are your thoughts?
I think from the very beginning, every time you see a Crobat, it does feel like a rogue option. It definitely seems like you're trying to take advantage of poison. Every Pokemon in your list is swinging for like 80 or less, most likely 70. Like you're usually swinging with 70. Yes, there'll be games where you lead Zubat, and when it comes back to you, you're already going into Crobat and swinging for 70 with poison and Nihilegos, and you're popping off. But there's also games where you'll lead Zubat past, and the Jolteon hit you for 60, or they'll hit like the Zubat doesn't find its way back to you. Like it's one of my favorite decks. Again, speaking of generations and keeping them pleased, Crobat's a Gen 2. You gotta that's like peak for me. That's what I grew up playing. Granted, I'm aware the games don't age well, but Crobat as a strategy, what helps it is the fact that all this like anti condition stuff didn't like really pop off. Like Ogerpon's not as universal as Indeedee was used. People are healing now with the Ice Pop. They're not using PCL, so there's definitely upside to the strategy using poison and all that. But at the end of the day, I don't think it passes Rogue. Although the it could win, obviously. It's definitely it's as good as some of the mid tier and solid decks, but as far as like what it's trying to do, it's definitely on the Rogue side.
For sure, I do agree with that. It's like one of those like new format. Let me bring this deck out.
For sure. Yeah.
It's like one of those like reliable.
definitely reliable. It does what it does, and it's pretty good at it.
Not going to lie, Buzzwole Formosa is kind of nasty. It's pretty good meta call right now. We're like in a darkish meta too, where I mean, the deck is pretty good. It's solid. It has nice fundamentals. Greninja being nasty is one of the reasons why it's not seeing that much play.
Yeah.
Now that being said, it's doing well now because there's not a lot of Greninja and people want to play other decks. So that being said, it's kind of finicky. It's like I want to say it's very solid, but realistically, I'd say right now it'll fall more into a category where it's kind of like mid,
Yeah, yeah. Especially now, even with the rise of Darktina, that's another matchup that it favors. Like that, it always had a good Darktina matchup. so that helps as well. Anything that gets popular that you're good against will help you in the long run. In this case, for Buzzwole. So I could see it being mid tier, although I could see it falling down to Rogue at the end by the end of it. But as if we're talking about right now, a moment of time, we take a picture of the format. I'm okay with it mid tier.
No, for sure. I'd say mid for sure.
All right, which leads us to Magnezone Absol, which is if of all the Absol list, this one was one of the more like interesting ones from on release. Like I mean, like whether it was using the Chinglings, whether it's I saw certain versions using like all different kinds of like baby Pokemon because you don't care. Like you're just building up Magnezone, you're building up Absol, and then what's in front like differs depending on what you're like really looking for. However, it's one of the ones that I least had reps with. I learned more how to play against it than I ever learned how to use it myself, if I'm being honest.
Same.
Yeah. However,
overall,
yeah,
it doesn't see play.
I don't think. Yeah, it definitely you'll see it every now and then, and it always performs rather well. Like it has some pretty good matchups. However, it has some really bad matchups, including the most popular deck in the format. It's like it goes back to like, can you beat Hydreigon? No, that already like starts knocking you down the list, unfortunately.
Exactly. I mean, nobody's playing this. This is zero.
Yeah.
I think we could go. It could Rogue. It could.
Yeah,
steal
it feels
the
harsh
game.
to put it in stop because it definitely has its upside, but
Yeah,
it's just like you said, the play rate's not there.
I'll just put Rogue because like that one player could play and just have a good day, you know.
For sure, for sure. Now I'll take the wheel on this next one.
Yeah, you have to take this.
Alright,
Go ahead. You can make this in 20-minute segment.
I could, but I'm gonna make it real quick. Stop. Don't this Steelix Pichu, unfortunately, it's time. It's not built to deal with Hydreigon, and it cannot deal with Hydreigon. However, there is versions that are a little better. Like there's a version with Indeedee that's seen a little more play recently, as of late. Is it still good? Is it any better? Not really. But in terms of like what could work in this format, this version that did well back in the very beginning of Crimson Blade is not gonna work now. I would say stop on Steelix. However, if you find a list that works, DM me. I will play it in a tournament. I will play it in ranked. I love trying because honestly, my favorite Pokemon is Onyx. It will always be, and any excuse I have to play, I'll use it. But it's just not.
At that point, you might as well, right?
Yeah, it's just they did him dirty, man. They did him dirty.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna trust your judgment on that because I've never played that card in my life.
Fair, I don't blame you.
So let's talk about that Meowth Chandelure.
What does that Meowth do?
Nah, I'm kidding. Meowth is amazing though. Like,
right, yeah.
The fact that it's a shield, just like a Mimikyu, is kind of crazy.
It's like the Magnezone. It's like the Magnezone, the one that swings for 90, just without having to attack. It's just there.
Exactly, it's like a continuous effect forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is with this card, that combo. You can't ignore it only came out, granted, like 3 days ago or something like that. Since it came out, it's been popping.
Yeah.
Like, without a doubt. It's just been popular, destroying everything. And it's just like, I mean, the fact that, you have to get through prize cards, 3 prize cards, in order to win 3 knockouts, it's just kind of crazy. It's like, overall, pretty strong. Chandelure can go up to 200 HP. Which can knock out like any Mega, like in a weakened state, or any Mega that's not
that's stage
Charizard
2,
or Swampert.
Or one of the
stage 2.
Yeah. But my opinion of this deck though, it does fall similar to the Mimikyu deck that you have, where I think once people adapt to what it's trying to do, it gets a little weaker. As you can see on the list as a whole, a lot of the Greninja matchups are really ugly. Because if they just realize, like, oh, if we get rid of this Chandelure, they don't have an attacker. Like, they have no way of dealing damage to us. That could get rough. However, its playability, it's easy to access. Like, the same way you said Mimikyu is hard to pilot, I think this one's definitely easier. Which is what would put it in a similar spot right now. Or what makes it more accessible to people. However, like, you're still struggling against Hydreigon. You're hoping for coin flips in some matchups, and at the end of the day, if they're able to just Greninja and drag out your only attacker, you're in trouble. Like, it's unfortunate.
Exactly. I'm only putting it in mid because you can't really ignore the fact that it's been having tournament success
For sure, for sure.
within
And
the
the
last
ceiling is
3
there. The ceiling is
days.
definitely there.
But like, yeah, well, I'd say it's mid because it's not there as solid yet. It's not there to say it's that great yet, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, for sure, that being said, um, yeah, mid is definitely the way to go. But, you know, this is the current tier list that, you know, what we came up with. And, you know, basically, this is, I feel like it's a very good representation on, you know, what's out there. Obviously, we're not going to have every single deck here. Like, example, somebody talking about Gengar, Kangaskhan, or you know, like
if you're not
I'm not gonna put
if you're not PokeBOM, I don't want to hear about your Gengar. Right? I'm kidding.
Right. So we're just putting all the decks that are like meta relevant,
And even
so,
then, some
like,
slip through the cracks. If it was for me,
even then,
all these
yeah.
weird Magnezone with exert electric type Pokemon here are a little suspect. I've not seen these decks, but that might be a me problem. That I won't put that on the list. You know.
Right. But that being said, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you, Mena, for coming through and helping with the list. Your input was helpful.
I hope they appreciate it and they don't think I'm just yapping out there. Hopefully I said something constructive throughout the entire time.
No, that's good. That's why you're here to the app.
I'll take it.
Nah, but
Anytime.
we got all the good information here. Hopefully this guides you into whatever tournament or emblem event or anything. And yeah, we'll get ready for rank as well. But we'll see you next time. Peace.
Take it easy. Stay pro.